फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अस्सलाम वालेकुम। सबसे पहले मैं शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूँगी आप सब लोगों का बिकॉज द टाइम इज़ वेरी ऑड। इसको फॉर्मली स्टार्ट करने से पहले मेरा ख्याल है कि मेरा शुक्रिया बनता है सबसे ज़्यादा हारून उस्मानी साहब का। हारून उस्मानी साहब, मैं बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि आपने मुझे आज ये मौका दिया कि मैं अपनी यंग जनरेशन तलबा के सामने अपनी चीज़ों को रख सकूँ और बात कर सकूँ। मैडम ने मुझे बहुत अच्छा गाइड किया, मैडम फायका, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। और इन्होंने मुझे रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया है कि ये इंग्लिश की किताब है, तो आपने इस सिलसिले में सिर्फ इंग्लिश में बात करनी है। ऐसा कुछ नहीं, आई विल इंट्रोड्यूस माय बुक इन इंग्लिश नो डाउट, लेकिन आप मैडम ने जो हवाला दिया कि आप मेरे से पंजाबी में भी सवाल कर सकते हैं, जो 3 ज़बानें मुझे आती हैं, इंग्लिश में भी सवाल कर सकते हैं और उर्दू में भी सवाल कर सकते हैं। First of all, I am very blessed that I belong to this institution named as Punjab University, because all my identity which Madam has introduced, it is only because of my institution, and this is Punjab University. So this credit goes to this institution first of all, that this institution has given me this identity. If I call Dr. Rukhsana Iftikhar, if I call Professor Dr. Rukhsana Iftikhar, it is only because of this institution. So first of all, I dedicate all my effort to this institution which has given me this identity. Now come to my book. As you have seen the title of my book, it is divided into 3 portions. First of all, it is named as Women in Politics. Second, Jahanara Begum, and third, the Mughal Princess. So I will first of all introduce my title, why I have chosen this. First of all, this book deals with the idea that participation of women in politics is generally the most recent phenomenon. So I deal in the first chapter that this is not a recent phenomenon. This phenomena exists from centuries to centuries, that women being a gender identity, they remain the part of political institution for long time. They were the part of politics in form of that they were regent, that they support kings. They were participate in politics. Sometimes their sons, immature sons, were at the thrones. They remain in the politics. Sometimes they were the ambassador of the king's court. So I have chosen a special personality which is very close, who is very close to my heart, Jahanara Begum, the spinster princess. Spinster means the princess who did not at that time adopted a stereotype thing in Mughal society that he got married. She did not at that time get married, but she was involved in court politics. She was also involved in the political activities, and she was also involved in the charitable endowment activities in Mughal India. Actually, first of all, I'm medievalist. Mughal Sultanate and Mughal historians, those people who work, or those scholars who work, especially Sultanate period and Mughal period, they are known as medievalists. So if I consider myself, then I am the medievalist. So this is the area in which I always feel my passion, I always feel my focus. So that's why I have adopted this Mughal phenomena and the Mughal princess phenomena. And the third thing, definitely, why these Mughals are so much important, why this dynasty is so much important, because there are certain fallacies of Mughal Empire and the Mughal people in Indian subcontinent. We normally take these Mughal people that they were very wealthy. First of all, they involved in different kind of luxurious activities. They were this and they were that. So I tried my level best to deal with all fallacies in this book in form of my chapter. So this is the introduction of the title, why I have adopted this title for my book. Now I will come towards the idea that how I divided this book, named as Jahanara Begum, the Mughal Princess, and her participation in Mughal politics at that time. So I have divided this book into 5 chapters, and you can say that these are the 5 layers of this research because it's close to. And by the way, this is my second book. The first book deal with the idea about the socio-political contribution of medieval women, which was also my PhD thesis, and then later on it was published from India. And this is again the second offshoot of my work, which is concentrate about the gender studies in general and women in particular. So, first of all, the first chapter deal with the aura of the Mughal dynasty. Because as I was talking about the Mughal princes, the third part of my title, that how we conceive Mughal as a researcher, as a historian, and as those people who participate in any kind of research activity. So I tried my level best in first chapter to deal with the idea of Mughal dynasty. I'm not saying that I have written the name of the Mughal rulers. No, I did not talk about the names of the Mughal rulers. I just discuss that how we people receive Mughal in general. What kind of trend they have adopted while they were living in Indian subcontinent. In general language, we people use this term Hindustan. How the people at that time, especially, introduced different patterns of culture in Indian subcontinent or in Hindustan. Because I firm believe, and I hope so, you understand my point, that if we want to understand a woman's status in any kind of particular society, we must emphasize about the understanding of this society. That what kind of society is this, what kind of cultural trend this society has adopted. And the third important thing, after this examination, we can determine the status of women in this society. So, the Mughal society overall, the plural society, in which they have the members of different communities, in which they have the members of different cultural ambassadors. For instance, Mughals were very much influenced by their neighboring country named as Iran, and they have adopted different cultural trends which were very much popular at that time in Iran. So I have mentioned those things which Mughal have introduced only due to the influence of Iran. The second most controversial thing which I deal in my second chapter, that is about Mughal Haram. After when I just close my conversation with you, then I ask you about the word Haram, how we people conceive it first of all. And the second, due to the colonial impact and due to the colonial impression, we normally consider that this Mughal harem was a sensuous kind of apartment in which normally we see or we imagine women exotic. So I also deal with this fallacy that this was an apartment in which, in this harem, all the female relatives first, and second, all the attendant and the slaves of the kings, female slaves of the king, were living. So I just joke apart, I just mentioned one incident in my life when I was working. One of the eminent professor of this Punjab University, he came to my office and asking one interrogative question. Madam, you are working on Mughal harem. Just tell me, is it true that Shah Jahan has 5,000 women in his harem? It was a kind of interrogative thing. You just tell me how a man has a 5,000 women in his apartment. So I tried to deal with this fallacy that all the bloodlines, female bloodlines of Mughal emperor who were living in this harem. And the second important thing, they were not only used for sensuous activities. No, all the normal thing which happen in an ordinary household, it was happen in Mughal harem. So my second chapter deal with the idea of harem in general and particularly Mughal harem. And on third stage, I discuss about especially Shah Jahan's harem. We normally believe that symbolically Shah Jahan was the person and his Taj Mahal is the symbol of love in this on this earth for time immemorial. So I am not the believer of that historically. Why I am not the believer of that? Because I never consider it a symbol of love. Because again, this is the colonial conviction that you made it a symbol of love. The man who made this symbol of love, he did not spend even a single penny on this symbol of love. So I believe love is this, that you spend your own money for the construction of this symbol of love. So come back to the point, women. That how I, being a woman, as I told you, that this is my passion also to disclose all the layers of the women talent, women ability. And I have chosen the women Jahanara Begum. She was the eldest daughter. Eldest son was Dara Shikoh, and eldest daughter of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. I just see that woman, that she was an educated lady, first. She was a learned scholar, second. She continued the tradition of Mughals women biography, because I believe that Mughal women were educated and literate women. And the great aunt of Jahanara Begum, Gulbadan Begum, was the woman who wrote at that time the biography of his brother Humayun in form of Humayunama. So she continued with this legacy, and the most attractive thing for me about Jahanara, that she tried to maintain the balance, first of all, of Mughal harem after the death of her mother Arjun Banu Begum, which is popularly known as Mumtaz Mahal. And second, she was at that time the counselor of her brothers. Her brother at that time was indulged in war of succession. The third chapter of my book deals with the idea that how politics evolved at that time and how Jahanara mediated in this politics. You know, in empire, normally politics revolve around, first of all, dynasty, and then revolves around family. So the brother of Jahanara, how they at that time were indulged in war of succession. And luckily, here I just want to pay tribute to my Indian friends, because when I just was struggling to get the original Rokate Alamgiri, then my Indian friend who belonged to Aligarh, Madam Gulif Shah, she has retired from Aligarh University as a professor and as a head of department and as a dean. She helped me a lot, especially to send the photographical description. You know, we don't have good relation with India, so the original thing we can't get. But she sent me the manuscript, which they have preserved in form of Rukate Alamgiri, in form of a visual clip, so I can mention it in my book, that how even the worst enemy like Dara and Aurangzeb, how she tried to mediate between them in form of these khatut, in form of these letters. So luckily they have preserved these letters and they send it to me, especially for my book. So in this book talk and everywhere where I have mentioned, I just gave them a bundle of thanks that they have at that time were very much gracious to send me all these letters originally. So I have attached those letters. These letters are beautifully written in Persian language. And luckily, I'm not an expert of Persian language. I'm even not able to speak it, but I can read it and understand it. This is the ability which I have about Persian. But luckily, my friend in Persian department, they helped me a lot about the reading of those letters. And these letters are the reflection of especially Jahanara's wisdom, first, Jahanara's political sagacity, second, and the third important thing about these letters are that these letters, if you see these letters, you will not differentiate that how the modern women are thinking and how the women at that time, especially medieval women, were thinking. So if you have time, sometime, my book is there in library, in my library also, you can see the description of that. These letters basically and these manuscripts basically help me to prove my argument that politics is not the domain of males. Politics is also the domain of female, and especially the female who was at that time an educated lady and who was at that time the women who can easily judge his family and mediate and reconciliate among the brothers, especially the four sons of Shah Jahan at that time. This is basically the political edge. And in my next chapter, I tried my level best to give the idea about the Sufi instinct which Jahanara has adopted at that time. She was a female Sufi because it is very difficult to imagine it in a royal family. You have certain kind of conviction about Sufism, one. And number second, you are not able to imagine that this Sufi princess at that time wrote a biography about her peer, Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti. Mullah Shah Badakshi was the Sufi at that time to whom these two brother and sister, Dara Shikoh and Jahanara, they were the disciple of Mullah Shah Badakshi at that time. And she also was a woman who balanced family one, politics second, Oman, and the third thing which was doing during her regime, that she also involved different kind of charitable activities. You know, it is very difficult because we normally think that women are only, they can think about one thing one time. They are not able to explore multi-dimensional things. So I tried in this chapter, Johar as a Sufi princess, that how she at that time got the idea of this Sufism, one. And second, Monastery Arwa, and which obviously we have the original script of Monastery Arwa in British Library. And I am just able to take few papers from this Monastery Arwa description. And Risale Sahibiya, luckily, is there in Pakistan, and my great teacher, Professor Aslam Saab, he has translated this Risale Sahibiya in Urdu language, and it is there in your research library. These are two written, you can say, script which Jahanara left for us. You know, it's a big thing in those days. I'm talking about 1600, 1642, 1635, and in 1630s, 1640s, a woman who has especially the conviction about the Sufism, and she was writing especially script for her dedication. And the most marvelous things for me that she was doing charity for sarais. She was constructing at that time different masajid. One masjid she has dedicated to Mullah Shah Badakshi. The remnants of this mosque is still there in Kashmir. And you know the famous Chandni Chowk in India, the pavilion basically, that was the idea of Jahanara Begum. Especially this pavilion should, now this is a bazaar, but at one time this was a pavilion of Chahar Bagh, mean four pavilion in four kind of baghat, which are very common in Mughal dynasty and introduced by Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur in Kabul first and then India second. So in this journey of Sufism, in this journey of helping people, in this journey of welfare project, in this journey in which she was maintaining balance, in which journey, especially she was the last stage, which I just want to discuss with you because Shah Jahan is a great emperor for you. Shah Jahan at that time, when Aurangzeb Alamgir ascended to the throne, I am using particular word in inverted commas, ascended to the throne of Hindustan, he at that time asked his father, I am using very polite word, otherwise in Urdu books it is written that शाहजहां को उसी जगह कैद कर दिया गया और कैद किसने किया? औरंगजेब आलमगीर ने. द पर्सन जिसको आप जानते हैं, द पर्सन जो कुरान लिखता था और जो टोपियां सीता था. Our history is the description of this. The person who wrote Quran, the person who sewed the caps, especially for his earning, and his father at that time confiscated in the same hujra through which he can see Taj Mahal very visibly. Luckily, I have visited India twice and I have seen the hujra where he was confined, especially confined through the royal order of Aurangzeb Alamgir that you should remain here. So, Jahanara was the companion of her father at that time. Father who was the ill father. Brother who was at that time indulging in wars. Two of the brothers killed in wars. And he was consoling his ailing father. Indian side has portrayed, you have seen the portrait on the internet of especially 17th century in which they depicted that Jahanara has some kind of illicit relation with her father. You know, this is pathetic by the way. How a man who has a lot of women, 5,000 women in his harem, you know, and in Eastern culture, a man who is the father of these women, how he had the illicit relation with his own daughter. Don't you think so? This is the portrait of the dirty minds of the West, that they are just throwing this kind of illegal things to the young minds of our generations, that they have certain kinds of relations with their father. So I also deal with this stigma which is normally associated, and the other side is still trying on this. One painting is still there on internet, you can see it, that the ailing father, Shah Jahan, and the women who is sitting beside Shah Jahan, they have some relation. This is by the way pathetic. This is the dirtiness of your mind which you are disclosing through the painting. So the women who was the entity, the women who has the identity of his age, the women who has the grace, the women who has the learned women at that time, I think we should modify our thinking that we are not going to believe the blind description of the Western travelers who came here in India and just gave the passing statement about the women. And in the end, I tried my level best to describe the humbleness of this great Mughal princess Jahanara Begum. And there are some pictures in my book also, a colored picture. In this colored picture, one picture defined that this woman who was the believer of Sufism in her age, she also has a simplest grave in the courtyard of Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia, in which there is no edifice, there is no mausoleum, there is nothing special. I can share with my own memory when I just visited the courtyard of Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia. I asked three persons in the courtyard, where is the grave of Jahanara Begum, because I personally want to say Fatiha on her grave. And the kataba of her grave also identified the humbleness of that lady. The women who have, you imagine that these women have the 100,000 luxuries in her life. You know, one incident which I have quoted in my book, that is about the incidents in which Jahanara was burned, and his father dedicate especially the revenue of one province after her recovery celebration. She recovered from this burnt, and she at that time her father celebrated. This women and the grave of these women, they don't have any kind of splendor. And this was her will, by the way. She wanted that her grave must be a grave in which a common man can access and common man offer Fatiha for her. I think that would enough from my side. आप थक जाएंगे because I can speak about Mughal and Mughal women from hours to hours. It is not going to be end. But I will invite the students that if they want to ask something about in general, because we people are very much speculative about Mughal dynasty. First, if they want to ask anything in general, and in particular if they want to ask anything about Mughal women. And thank you very much, all of the students, all of the teachers for bearing with me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. आज मेरी खैर नहीं है.
Let me take the advantage you have given to the audience. You can speak in Urdu or Punjabi or anything. बहुत ज़बरदस्त. सबसे पहले तो मैं आपने किताब का तारुफ और बहुत ही absorbing आपकी गुफ्तगू थी, और मैं तो पलक झपकते हुए भी ज़रा थोड़ा सा रुक रहा था. तो मुगल के बारे में, मुगल डायनेस्टी के बारे में बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, बहुत सारे बिट्स हैं. मुझे ऑर्डर ट्रस्टी की किताब भी याद आ रही है जो औरंगजेब मैन एंड मिथ के हवाले से है. ख़वातीन के हवाले से आपने मुगल की बात की, हमें चंद ही नाम नजर आते हैं, हो सकता है ज़्यादा हो कुछ उसके अंदर, कि जहांगीर की जो दास्तान इश्क हैं उसमें नूरजहां और अनारकली का जिक्र नजर आता है. मुमताज़ महल का खुसूसन जिक्र नजर आता है, और आपने ये जहानारा बेगम और एक ज़ेबुन निसा का भी औरंगजेब वो आता है. तो क्या इससे ज़्यादा हैं कुछ ख़वातीन जिनका पार्टिसिपेशन एक्टिवली रहा हो, क्योंकि आपने पॉलिटिक्स इन विमेन आपका पोर्शन आपने बनाया है उसके हवाले से, तो और कितने कोई नाम आपके ज़हन में आप बता सकते हैं?
जी बिल्कुल. इसमें देखिए, जो आप बात कर रहे हैं, मैं चूंकि रिसर्चर हूँ उस एज की जिसमें वो नॉन वुमेन फॉल करती हैं जिन्होंने बायोग्राफीज और ऑटोबायोग्राफीज की शक्ल में चीज़ें लेफ्ट की. जैसे मैंने अभी गुलबदन बेगम की एग्जांपल दी कि उसका हमायूंनामा मौजूद है. अनारकली इज कम्प्लीटली अ मिथ, उसका हकीकत से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है. नूरजहां पता बहुत बड़ी खातून थी, मैं आज भी उसकी बहुत पर्सनली आई फील अगर इफ देयर इज एन एम्प्रेस इन मुगल इंडिया, नूरजहां वाज द वुमन who could hold the title of this empress in Mughal India. And again, Jahanara and Zebunissa. Zebunissa is also very much popular about divan, which she left, especially about poetry. And the Chaburji, which is there in Pakistan, we people normally know her because she has given this place to one of his attendants that you must bury here and I will shift my mausoleum somewhere else. But there is highly unfortunate, as I was talking about, due to this idea of first of all parda and then haram. The things which we have the reference of travelers only. The travelers' reference are normally based on gossip, which they have heard in bazaar. They normally write in their traveler blogs and travel writing, and after that, it is end. The women who actively participate, basically, the era normally end on with the era of Aurangzeb Alamgir. After that, we historians normally believe that in later Mughal period, the decline of the dynasty has started. So the active participation of women, especially in this affair of politics, in literature, in poetry, and you can say in kind of a biography or autobiography, वो इस period के बाद हमें we are not able to see this because I am the firm believer of this. We are historian who normally talk with reference. Exaggerations are there that this is the women of the harem of the younger Akbar. You know, one was the Akbar the Great, and then the Muazzam's harem, and in the Azam's harem. But those women who are actively participated and left their footprints behind, it is ended on Silvanissa. Because after that, definitely the pace of the empire, you know, as I was talking in the early, when we see the status of a woman in society, first we have to see the society. Then you can grasp the status of a woman in a society. So the society at that time shifting to their parameters towards different things. You know, in 1600, East India Company was landing. India was divided into the different principalities. So in this petty kingdom, the role of the women was normally not portrayed. But definitely there are few women like Rani Jhansi. There are women like Mirabai. Unfortunately, the women are not particularly studied, and it is not the part of the research that we people are going to talk about them. If we do research, I invite all the students because you are the youngster. If we do research, maybe there are some other notable women which we can find out.
मैडम आपने जहानारा के बारे में बात की, लेकिन मेरा जो सवाल है वो ये है कि जो रज़िया सुल्तान है उसके बारे में देखते हैं कि जो उसकी जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव पॉलिसी है, उसकी जो स्ट्रगल है उमर जहां के साथ, वो काफी ज्यादा उसको अंडरमाइन किया जाता है। जबकि उसका जो दूसरा पहलू है, उसको बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ाया जाता है कि वो उसके जो सेक्सुअल रिलेशंस हैं दुनिया के साथ या खुद के साथ, उसको बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ाया जाता है। जो उसके दूसरे एक्ट्स हैं उसको काफी ज्यादा अंडरमाइन किया जाता है। तो मेरा ये सवाल है कि इसकी क्या वजह है कि इसका जो क्रेडिट है वो ब्रिटिश स्टोरी पे जाता है, या उसका जो स्टोरी जैसे जुजानी है या दूसरे स्टोरीज के कंटेम्परेरी हैं उन पे जाता है।
This question is very interesting, and from the very early childhood age, I am dealing with the question. You know, we always consider women as an object of pleasure. Either the women belong to the strata of elite class, or the women belong to the lower strata. So my point is this: Razia, basically, first of all, I will deal with the name Razia Sultan. Sultan is a title. She is not Razia Sultana because it's not a movie, it's her whole life, you know. And she was the first woman I consider who adopted a democratic way to take the throne of her father, because she at that time publicly went to a platform in Delhi and asked people that my father nominated me, you young people have decided, and the people have decided who is eligible for this throne. My brother, who don't have the interest in politics, or I am the nominated queen by my father first. And the second thing, She was the woman who challenged the authority of Murai Chegalgani. You know, the core of 40. That is only for Turkish blood before Razia Sultan. She was the woman who broke the hierarchy. You know, you people believe that women are not politicians. She was the politician, she broke the hierarchy. She asked that I will appoint another man who belongs to another ethnicity. He will be in charge of the royal household stable. So this was the act of deviation which led to her scandal to Yakut and Altonia. You know, the male-dominated society. One of the historians, he did not mention her name in the list of Saladin. You know, how you can deny that a woman who ruled from 1236 to 1240, being a male historian, how you can exclude her name? These are known as gender biases. Okay, so when we deal with the Razia Sultan and even when we deal with Noor Jahan, you know, you normally take this sentence, okay, Jahangir has given this empire to Noor Jahan and in exchange 1 cup of wine and Kashmir. How it is possible? This is exaggeration by the way. He was a sick man and she was holding an empire. The way Razia Sultan basically, your all male sick men were there and she was the most eligible sultan at that time. So how you can bear with that? You ask yourself, can you bear a woman? No, you can't. Because your male ego will hurt, you know. It is hurt because we are there. If we are there, so this is our right, hereditary right, that male should be the sovereign. She proved that female could be the sovereign and she would be successful sovereign. वरना उसको पंजाब के खेतों में एक आदमी के भेष में ना मारा जाता अगर मेल ईगो हर्ट ना हुई होती. Because you just compete with women. I always ask, you compete with women one-to-one, face-to-face, not on her back. Because she is a woman, you are fighting on her back. So same is the case with Razia Sultan. They were fighting on the back. They did not fight face-to-face. And I am the firm believer also, if they fight on face-to-face, she was the winner.
मेरा एक सवाल नहीं बल्कि थोड़ी सी रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि आपने 2-3 मिसालें बयान की हैं कि वो कैसे इंसान हो सकता है कि जो कुरान मजीद लिखता हो, टोपियां सीखकर अपनी अर्निंग करता हो. मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि ऑडियंस को थोड़ा सा इस बारे में जो कलोनियलिज्म की वजह से बहुत सारे डर्टी माइंड का आपने जिक्र किया, मैं चाहूंगा कि आप काइंडली 1 या 2 मिनट में हमारी यंग जनरेशन को उर्दू में थोड़ा सा ये क्लैरिफाई कर दे कि ऐसा जो हमारे ज़हनों में डाला क्या ये नहीं था. असल हकीकत जो जहांगीर से लेकर जो बयान की जाती है, स्पेशली शाहजहां और उससे बढ़कर जो औरंगजेब आलमगीर के बारे में कि वो बहुत बड़ा जालिम था, ये जरा काइंडली इस पे थोड़ी सी अगर उसमें डाल सकें.
जी जरूर. एक चीज बच्चे मैं उर्दू में कोशिश करती हूँ. एक चीज आपने हमेशा याद रखनी है कि जो हमारी तारीख है उसको लिखने की जिम्मेदारी ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने कबूल की थी जब वो रूलर थे यहाँ के. उन्होंने कहा था कि हम आपका जो माजी है उसको कंस्ट्रक्ट करेंगे. ठीक है, कंस्ट्रक्शन क्या होती है कि फॉर इंस्टेंस ये मेरा घर है तो मैं इसकी कंस्ट्रक्शन करूंगा. कंस्ट्रक्शन में क्या करते हैं, फिर आप अपना घर तो अपनी मर्जी से बनाएंगे ना, तो ये दूसरे की मर्जी से तो नहीं बनाएंगे, या जैसा आपने सोचा होगा, अपने ख्वाबों में देखा होगा वही बनाएंगे. तो ये जो हमारी तारीख है ये कंस्ट्रक्ट की गई है और हमारी बदकिस्मती, इसमें मैं भी शामिल हूँ, हमारी बदकिस्मती ये है कि हमने अगली ईंट भी उसी कंस्ट्रक्शन के ऊपर रखी है. हमने उस कंस्ट्रक्शन को देखने की कोशिश नहीं की कि जब किसी का माजी लिखा जाता है तो उसके लिए उसमें रचना और बसना जरूरी होता है, उस जगह पर रहना जरूरी होता है, उस जबान को जानना जरूरी होता है, उन लोगों से मिलना जरूरी होता है, उस कल्चर के अंदर आपकी बकायदा सलाहियत होनी चाहिए, फिर आप किसी के बारे में लिख सकते हैं। तो जब उन्होंने ये काम शुरू किया तो फिर उन्होंने वही लिखा जो उन्होंने सोचा हुआ था, कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ योर हिस्ट्री। मुगल्स आर ऑल्सो द विक्टिम। अब आपको पता है एक नई वेव है और मैंने उसकी पहली किताब पढ़ भी ली है। अब जो दूसरी पार गवर्नमेंट उन्होंने एजेंडा दिया है कि पहले हम कहते थे मुस्लिम रूल इन इंडिया, अब वो कहते हैं कि जी ये साबित करें कि मुसलमान जो इस खिते में आए थे वो बकायदा जो है ना वो इस खिते के लोगों को क्रूसिफाइड करने के लिए आए थे, वो यहाँ के लोगों को मारने के लिए आए थे। उसका पहला वॉल्यूम बाबर की शक्ल में आ गया हुआ है, बाबर द चेस बोर्ड किंग, ठीक है। और उन्होंने इतने बुरे तरीके से, मैंने वो किताब लकीली कुछ दिन पहले ही खत्म की है, कि वो हिस्ट्री को ऐसे तरोड़ मरोड़ के पेश कर रहे हैं। इसमें सिर्फ एक लाइन याद रखनी है जो आपने पूछी है, जो मजहब होता है वो एक मुख्तलिफ चीज है। मैडम इसके बाद बताएंगी आपको कि मजहब क्या है। जो तारीख होती है वो ये मांगती है, तारीख प्रूफ मांगती है, तारीख रेफरेंस मांगती है, और ये दोनों अलग डोमेन है। ये क्रिश्चियन मिशनरीज को भी समझाने की जरूरत थी, जिन्होंने हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया एज टोल्ड बाय इट्स ओन हिस्टोरियन लिखी। ये उन लोगों को भी समझाने की जरूरत है जो कि इस वक्त मुस्लिम रूल की तमाम चीजों को मलाइन करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, और ये हम लोगों को भी समझाने की जरूरत है जो ये समझते हैं कि हमारे अलावा दुनिया में कोई कम्युनिटी एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती। इट इज ऑन गोइंग प्रोसेस, इट इज नॉट स्टॉप विद द पीपल कि उन्होंने तारीख लिखी। तो जो अंग्रेजों ने तारीख लिखी, मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है वो मुगलों के बारे में है, उसके बारे में कंटेम्प्रेरी जो सोर्सेस हैं वो जरूर देखें। बाबर के बारे में जो लिखा गया, यहाँ की बुनियादी किताबें क्या कहती, उसके बाद हुमायूं के बारे में, अकबर के बारे में जो लिखा गया, जहांगीर के बारे में जो लिखा गया, वो कंटेम्प्रेरी पर्शियन सोर्सेस क्या हैं, वो यहाँ के इवन आप देखिए एक और सोर्स भी है जो जहांगीर के बारे में ये कहता है कि ही वाज द किलर ऑफ अदर कम्युनिटीज। गुरु अर्जन सिंह के हवाले से वो लोग ये बिलीव करते हैं कि उसने ऐसा किया। तो क्या एज अ रिसर्चर, एज अ हिस्टोरियन, ये मेरी जिम्मेदारी नहीं बनती कि मैं इन चीजों को चेक कर लूं किसी भी तहरीर में लाने से पहले? तो ये सब मुगल्स के साथ भी हुआ, मुगल औरतों के साथ भी हुआ और मुगल्स के साथ इन जनरल भी हुआ है कि आपने जहांगीर को सिर्फ शराब तक महदूद कर दिया, आपने शाहजहां को सिर्फ ताजमहल तक महदूद कर दिया, और इसी तरीके से औरंगजेब आलमगीर एक प्योरिटियन बन गया। ये हमारा किया है, आई एम टेकिंग द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, ये हिस्टोरियन का किया है। इसमें देखिए, ये याद रखिएगा, जो मुगल या जितने रूलर्स या जितने इन्वेडर्स इंडिया में आए और अब पाकिस्तान आएंगे, उसके पीछे सिर्फ एक चीज होती है, वो होती है आपकी पावर पॉलिटिक्स। आपकी तारीख भी इसी पावर पॉलिटिक्स का की नजर हुई है। तो यंग हिस्टोरियन जो है उनको इन सारी चीजों को, मैं ये नहीं कहती यू शुड बी इन सर्च ऑफ ट्रूथ, नो, क्योंकि हम कोई रिलीजियस, जैसे मैं पहले कह चुकी हूँ, हम कोई रिलीजन का हक और सच तलाश नहीं कर रहे हैं। हमें उन फैक्ट्स को देखना है, उन जैसे हिस्टोरियन है तो क्रोनोलॉजी को देखना है, उन सोर्सेस को चेक करना है कि वाकई ही क्या ऐसा था। जैसे मैंने कहा कि अब, और मेरे लिए बल्कि हारून उस्मानी साहब मेरी हेल्प भी करेंगे, सर पेंगुइन वाले वो उस एजेंडे को छाप रहे हैं कि आप ये साबित करें कि मुगल्स वर द क्रूसिफाइड। आप देखें, उनसे बड़ा तो पब्लिशिंग हाउस नहीं हो सकता कि इट मींस कि आपको किसी भी बुक के पब्लिशिंग हाउस से भी पता चल जाएगा कि व्हाट काइंड ऑफ साइकी दे हैव इन देयर माइंड बिफोर पब्लिशिंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स। तो जैसे आपके बड़े बूढ़ों ने कहा, बात वही खत्म करूंगी कि बोलने से पहले सोच और समझ लिया करो, पढ़ने के बाद तहकीक किया करो कि वाकई ही ऐसा हुआ था या नहीं हुआ था। अगर सच नहीं पता चलेगा तो एटलीस्ट 20% चीजें बिल्कुल क्लियर हो जाएंगी। हाँ मैडम का टाइम मेरा ख्याल है मैं ले रही हूँ.
Amazing lecture. I am first seeing the Jahanara Begum, the Sufisms. I am not a history student. I am an engineer by profession, working for France, England as well. I am a little bit soft skill trainers and like that. My question is, let us see interventions. I was in Samarkand. I saw the museum. There was a biography of the Mughal emperor. Mostly when I say the people, mostly people say you are from our country, you are coming from India, Pakistan. It was our country. People traveled from Samarkand to India. But the real history is that कि इतने साल उन्होंने हुक्मरानी की, वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट तो वहाँ भी नहीं थी. मुगल के लिए ये तो क्लियर स्टेट एम्पावरमेंट देते ही थे, लेकिन इतने साल उन्होंने सालों साल हुकूमत की. ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी आती है, एक शिप में पहले आते हैं, फ्यू थाउजेंड्स होती है. उस वक्त 22-23 करोड़ सब कॉन्टिनेंट की पॉपुलेशन होती है, और वो इनको कैप्चर कर लेते हैं. मैंने वो शिप भी देखा इंग्लैंड में, उन्होंने रखा म्यूजियम में, बाथ सिटी में, कि जो फर्स्ट शिप गया था इंडिया पाकिस्तान के हिंदुस्तान. तो सवाल ये है कि इतने साल मुगल एम्पायर बहुत ज़्यादा तरीके से घूमते की, लेकिन क्या उन्होंने पब्लिक की डेवलपमेंट नहीं की? क्या पब्लिक के अंदर के ऐसे नहीं कहा कि उनके अंदर पैट्रियोटिज्म आए, उनके अंदर मज़हब को छोड़ दें. आप तो मज़हब की बात नहीं कर रहे, हम तो कर रहे हैं उनके इतने 100 साल हुकूमत करने के बावजूद भी डिसइंटीग्रेट थे, और यही फायदा और अल्टीमेटली उस वक्त 24-23 करोड़ की आबादी थी, सब कोटे मुसलमान थे, और उसको उन्होंने इस तरह डिसइंटीग्रेट किया, इस तरह कैप्चर किया. बट बुलेट्स पॉइंट में हम बताएंगे 5-6 बुलेट्स पॉइंट में, तो क्या कहेंगे आप हमें, न्यू जनरेशन किस तरह बताएंगे कौम में इस तरह डिसइंटीग्रेट हो जाती है?
जी जी जरूर. ये थैंक यू वेरी मच. ये मैं कोशिश करूंगी बहुत कम वक्त में आपके ये सारे चीज़ों को कैप्चर कर सकूं. देखिए, पहले मैं सबसे पहले एक बात करूंगी, जो भी आपने बात की कि जो भी सिस्टम, जो भी गवर्नमेंट, जो भी रूल, जो भी एम्पायर हम बनाते हैं, वो एम्पायर सिर्फ उसी सूरत में रह सकती है जब आप उसकी ओवरहॉलिंग करते रहें, जब आप उसके अंदर रिफॉर्म्स करते रहें, जब आप नई चीजें इंट्रोड्यूस कराते रहें. द डायलेमा विद मुगल इज दिस, व्हेन इट वाज इन एपिक, उसके बाद इस सिस्टम के अंदर रिफॉर्म्स नहीं आए. देखिए, हर वक्त की एक नीड होती है. फॉर इंस्टेंस, आज जो मुझे जरूरत है, मेरी अगली जनरेशन को उससे ज्यादा स्विफ्ट चीजों की जरूरत होगी. ग्लोरियस मुगल्स आपको इसलिए नजर आते हैं, जो अर्ली मुगल्स जिनको आप कह रहे हैं, फ्रॉम बाबर टू औरंगजेब आलमगीर, के वो हर टाइम के बाद, 20 साल के बाद, 25 साल के बाद, दे इंट्रोड्यूस रिफॉर्म्स, ताकि वो वक्त की नीड के मुताबिक रिफॉर्म इंट्रोड्यूस करा के आगे चले. जब ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी लैंड करती है, और आप जैसे खुद फरमा रहे हैं कि वो डिसइंटीग्रेशन हो जाती है, इतने साल उन्होंने रूल किया है, they were first of all about in the fallacies कि हमें कोई नहीं हिला सकता. जैसे हमारे कुछ रूलर समझते हैं कि हमें किसी ने क्या कह लेना, because we are talented and we are experienced. इनके साथ सबसे पहला डायलेमा ये था, आफ्टर औरंगजेब आलमगीर they did not introduce reforms. For instance, हिंदुस्तान was an agricultural country, इसको जरूरत थी नए कानून 10 साल की. वो 10 साल कानून जो अकबर ने इंट्रोड्यूस कराया था, वो औरंगजेब आलमगीर के लिए कतई तौर पर ऐसा नहीं था कि उसको आगे लेके चले. इसी तरीके से जो आप ब्रिटिश कम्युनिटी की बात करें, they were the rulers of the seas, उनके पास उस वक्त नेवल पावर थी. अब अगर आप मुगल्स को देखें, इन्होंने नेवी को इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं कराया. उन्होंने कहा हम ऐसे रूलर हैं कि हमारे बाद कौन आएगा और कौन फतह करने की कोशिश करेगा. यू नो, जहांगीर हैज गिवन द ऑर्डर, रॉयल फरमान उसका मौजूद है, मैंने खुद अपनी आंखों से देखा हुआ है, कि ये हमारे साथ ट्रेड कर सकते हैं. ये कौन लोग हैं जो सी के रास्ते आ रहे हैं? शाहजहां ने खुद कहा आप सूरत के थ्रू आए, और आपने रॉयल फैमिली को डिस्टर्ब नहीं करना, बाकी जो आप करना चाहते हैं वो कर. देखिए, इनके डाउनफॉल की सबसे बड़ी रीजन ये थी कि इन्होंने उस नए सिस्टम को, वक्त की नई जरूरत को, और जो नए इन्वेडर्स आ रहे हैं उनको अंडर एस्टिमेट किया. One. Number second, the things they were known for that was public welfare and public projects. जो लेटर मुगल पीरियड है उसमें आपको ना पब्लिक वेलफेयर नजर आती है, ना पब्लिक प्रोजेक्ट नजर आती है, ना ही वो चीज नजर आती है जिसमें रूलर का कांटेक्ट सिटीजन्स के साथ होता है, आम लोगों के साथ होता है। अब वो जो लोग आ रहे हैं वो तो बाजारों में फिरने वाले लोग हैं, उनकी असेसमेंट भी बहुत अच्छी है। फिर उनको दे आर द लॉयल सर्वेंट ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, उनको ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को फैसिलिटेट भी करना है। तो वो जो नया बंदा आ रहा है वो इक्विपमेंट टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ आ रहा है, जो हमारे साथ पाकिस्तान में भी हो रहा है और आज भी है कि जो नया बंदा आ रहा है वो टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ आ रहा है, वो नई चीजों के साथ। हम वही एंशिएंट डाउन ट्रोडन और अपनी एज में वक्त के अंदर रहने वाले लोग हैं। When you transform yourself, you will excel. When you don't transform yourself, the other will excel. ठीक है, जो बाहर से लोग आएंगे तो वो तो फिर आपसे ज्यादा अच्छे हैं, उनके पास ज्यादा कुछ है। और फिर मैं इस चीज को एक्नॉलेज करती हूँ जिससे मैं बात खत्म करूंगी। मैडम इंतजार करिए, सॉरी मैडम, उन्होंने हमें एजुकेशन दी, अंग्रेजों ने, उन्होंने हमें हेल्थ सिस्टम इंट्रोड्यूस कराया। देखिए जी, इससे पहले तो हमारे यहाँ अस्पताल के बाहर अस्पताल लिखा ही नहीं होता था, ठीक है। फीमेल्स के हवाले से उन्होंने फीमेल की लेजिस्लेशन किया पंजाब के अंदर के औरतों को किस तरह की जिंदगी गुजारनी चाहिए, उनकी फैसिलिटेशन के एक्ट्स पास हुए हैं। तो when the new things will come, people will accept. When the old rotten things will, you will define, you will stuck in time. तो मैं हिस्टोरियन होने की हैसियत से आपको ये सजेस्ट करूंगी, डोंट स्टक इन टाइम, मूव फॉरवर्ड इफ यू वांट टू गेट सक्सेस। थैंक यू वेरी मच।